Weakened will of man. Man is able to do nothing without the favor of God, that is, his will is so weakened and his power of resistance so low that he would not mature mentally on earth without divine help, because the opponent of God constantly presses him, who influences his will and therefore makes him unable to fight against him. The influence of the opponent of God is so great on man because he holds the pleasures of the world before his eyes, and man in the state of free will can now determine about himself. Endless times before his will was bound, and nothing was accessible to him than what corresponded to his nature. Free will now only lets his thinking, feeling and wanting come into their own, his desires grow and are now directed towards things, which still hold completely immature spiritual in them, therefore are part of the opponent of God, which he now uses as lure to also win back the spiritual, which had already again approached God more. Through these lures he now weakens the will of man in a way that he would not be able to fulfill his actual earth assignment when God would not help him with his favor, with his help. The influence of the opponent of God on men was enormous before Jesus Christ came to earth, and the will of men was so weakened that almost no man could any more break away from matter, from the immature spiritual, which seeks to chain the already more mature spiritual to itself. The opponent of God ruled the world, i.e., the will of man completely subordinated itself to his will, and therefore he had great power. The will of a man now opposed him. Jesus Christ recognized the weakness of men and its dreadful consequences, and in his exceedingly great love towards men he sought to help them. He offered himself for them as sacrifice to buy a strong will for them, a will, which could offer resistance to the work of the adversary. This was a gift, which was therefore acquired undeservedly for men, and again it depended on the will of them whether they wanted to accept the gift or not. The adversary of God uses all means to prevent men from making use of the favors of the work of redemption by trying to weaken it or to deny it completely. And again it is the love and favor of God, which is likewise exceedingly effective, that truth is offered to men from above, that they are enlightened about everything, and also the necessity of the acknowledgment of Christ as Redeemer of the world is made so understandable to them, that it is easy for them to believe in him and thus to place themselves into the blessing of the act of salvation. People's will is weak, but God constantly endeavors to impart strength and grace to them, because without such he cannot withstand the adversary's challenges, because he constantly needs God's help to be able to master his earthly task, to be able to free himself from the influence of the one who wants to bring about his downfall. Despite his weakness, man is not helpless, because all favors of the work of redemption are at his disposal, i.e., if he believes in Jesus Christ as Redeemer of the world, in his crucifixion out of love for humanity, which was under the adversary's spell, if he calls upon Jesus Christ for his help, he will also receive the strength to resist. In all adversities and dangers threatening his soul he will be supported and held by him, in whom his soul believes, he will constantly find help with him, divine grace will constantly flow to him, he will be able to separate himself from earthly possessions and strive towards God without hindrance, his spirit will recognize the truth in a light and bright way, his love will grow and thereby ever new strength will be supplied to him, the blessings of the act of salvation will have an overwhelming effect on him and help him towards his own redemption. Amen.